Homeless people I know are good people, but they need our help.
I just think they're lazy and they should get a job.
I kind of feel sorry for them.
I think that most of them are spoiled brats and should just go home.
It's a very bad thing when people are homeless.
Homelessness is, means many different things to a lot of different people.
To me, homelessness is not having a roof over your head. It's not having a roof over your head and underneath that roof having somewhere where you feel comfortable, having a family, people in it that you love.
To a majority of our community, probably homelessness is the images they would have of people from Melbourne, maybe sleeping on park benches or on steps in areas that they have no genuine accommodation, no bed to actually go and sleep in.
For me, it's about a person having access to safe, secure, stable and affordable accommodation on a daily basis.
I had my own perception of homelessness, and to me it was, old people living in the streets, in caves in Black Hill, under the railway bridge in Peel Street, drinking alcohol out of brown paper bags, coming out during the day begging for money and hiding away again during the evening. Of course, since I've been working at Peplow House, that whole perception's changed. I had no idea there was even such a thing as youth homelessness, and it blew me away.
There are many types of homelessness. Primary homelessness can include squatting or sleeping rough. Secondary homelessness includes temporary crisis accommodation or couch surfing. And tertiary homelessness can include staying at a place like a boarding house.
There's lots of causes for homelessness. One of the biggest ones we see here are drug and alcohol use and family relationship breakdowns.
I guess certainly the reality of what are some of the drivers to making people homeless, as we said, family violence, being the subject of sexual abuse and emotional abuse, just being exposed to a whole range of different circumstances that make it really, really tough to actually remain at home in that home environment, might be some of the reasons why people then choose that home is not the safest space for them to be in.
I was 15, and between then and now that I'm 17, I've rented rooms off of 3 people, I think. But yeah, in between then I just sort of have to stay here and there again until I find somewhere. The last time, it was just was definitely not working out. I was really, really uncomfortable and it was affecting my health and my friendships, and it was completely wrong. So
I don't think generally Ballarat really understand how big youth homelessness is.
We do know that from the 2006 census, on one given night, there were 23,000 young people identified as homeless on that one night. Now, how many become homeless across a year? I couldn't tell you. I wish I could, but we just don't have the capacity to count those, every single person, the whole year.
I just basically left home because things were really difficult with my mum. She suffers from depression and anxiety, and she didn't really make things better for herself. And so one day, after thinking about it for a really long time, I just pretty much said, all right, I've had enough. So I got up, I left, and every night I sort of just planned to stay at a different person's house. And it was hard because I didn't want to say, I'm homeless now, can I stay with you for a while? So I just sort of said, hey, let's have a sleepover tonight, rather than I have nowhere to go. So
it is very, very difficult for a young person to come to the homeless service system and say, I'm homeless. That's a really confronting thing to say when you're young.
I think for a lot of young people, they don't consider themselves as being homeless. Probably that they're less likely to want to go and try and access services and to try and resolve the issue. But certainly my experience involved with a number of young people has been that they are relying on staying at a mate's house or their parents let me stay there. But sometimes that doesn't always work out. And then at that crucial time, maybe after 6 p.m. on weeknights when services tend to not be available, suddenly their situation changes and there is nowhere for them to go. And that, I guess, presents itself with a real safety issue for them.
Yeah, well, there was one night where I had to I had nowhere to stay, and I think I could have always gone back to my mum's, but it was just way too uncomfortable there. So I ended up staying in Melbourne overnight, but I didn't sleep because it was obviously really uncomfortable. I don't know how anybody does that because it's scary. I mean, there's no four walls around you, you're just constantly frightened. So I stayed up and I don't know, it was interesting. It wasn't too scary because it was pretty busy at night there, so. But that was only one night. Other than that, I was pretty lucky in finding somewhere to stay and things.
Anecdotally, we don't believe that the majority of young people rough sleep. Certainly some do, and many may, from time to time, have to sleep it out for the night. We think it's probably about 10% of young people who might be homeless who might have to sleep rough on occasion. The vast majority of young people are staying at their friends.
Couchsurfing, most commonly used by young people, is temporary accommodation provided by friends and extended family.
Some that I guess I know that are sleeping at friends' houses or doing that couch surfing role, but you just think at times, gee, that will always have a limited lifespan.
In a general sense, in a broad sense, a couple of weeks, and then they'll go on to another mate. And then they might do that for a few weeks, and then they might go to another. If they're lucky enough to have 3 or 4 mates that still live at home with their parents or live with people that are willing to put them up on the couch, it's really 1 to 2 weeks before it really does start breaking down.
Those young people might be anywhere between age 15 and 17 or 18 that may not have access to employment or the means to be self-sustainable. That becomes an issue for them.
I think being homeless for young people creates a wide variety of challenges. I think it's really hard to progress with your schoolwork. Having spoken to young people who are, high school students who are trying to do their homework whilst moving from couch to couch, or if they're even with their parents, and this happens a lot, and they might be, 15, 16 and they're with their parents, maybe they're living in their car and they're trying to do their VCE in the back seat of a car. Once you add that into the stress that I think all young people experience going through VCE, and you compound that with that, it's very hard for them to get the kind of educational outcomes that they deserve, or that they're quite often capable of in an ideal circumstance.
It was hard, especially living out of a bag. I continued to go to school through most of it, and it was definitely difficult not being able to just have all your stuff with you and not really having anyone to talk to because you didn't know where you'd be next, and there was like the constant fear of not being able to find somewhere to stay the next night. And I mean, I always knew that there were people that cared about me that would have me stay, but it was just, I don't know, you feel like a burden no matter what. As much as they say, oh, I want you to feel at home and stuff, you don't, because it isn't home. But yeah.
For them to remain focused about wanting to complete their education and VCE to go on and do something else with their life and open up some choices, that's a pretty strong commitment by a young person to make those sort of choices.
So yeah, I was confident about it to begin with, and then it started sort of getting a little bit difficult, not having anywhere to study and trying to study in my room but feeling uncomfortable, and it was just like I tried as hard as I could not to be there most of the time because I was just so uncomfortable. And when you're not like at your house, then you can't really study much, and it started getting difficult to keep up with things. And then things just got way too uncomfortable where I was, and so I left, and at the time I wasn't sure what I was doing, and it was too much stress to be going through year 12 as well, so I had to leave after putting myself through schooling until a little bit of year 12, and I was almost done, but yeah, I tried.
we try and do as much as we can. We have programs that operate. We have a children's resource coordinator here in the Grampians region. There's one in every region in the state. They help us to engage effectively with schools so that we can get kids either back into school or keep them in their schools. We can help them out with school books, getting access, being able to go on camps, doing all those sorts of things, because what we recognise is that, especially for a child, connection back to your peer group, to your school, is critical in your overall development and growth as a human being. So a lot of our work is focused around what are the needs, what can we do for this kid to help them stay connected.
Experiencing homelessness can have many short and long-term effects, including social disengagement, physical and mental health problems, permanent withdrawal from education, trust issues and isolation, and ongoing unemployment issues.
I don't have many friends at the moment at all. My friends are basically my boyfriend's friends at the moment. It's difficult to maintain a friendship when you're not in the right state of mind and you're not stable yourself. It's hard to make other people happy. And I think I tried too hard because I was so alone to have, someone there, that one best friend that you cling to and things like that. I used to go to all kinds of extremes of being too nice, I suppose. You feel like a bit of a burden on people, and it's hard to sort of keep your chin up when things are really crappy. to try and be positive all the time and to try and help other people with their problems and not dwell too much on your own problems and things. Because when you finally have that one person to let everything out with and feel comfortable with, it's hard not to sort of splurge and, say everything. And I guess it's difficult. It's difficult for them as well because, it's an uncomfortable thing to deal with.
Being really unstable and really unsafe on a daily basis can affect you psychologically, can lead to depression, anxiety, those kind of disorders.
Being homeless and things definitely affected me mentally, but I was already suffering from depression before I was homeless. It's always sort of hard, no matter what, but you try as hard as you can to stay positive because you're all you've got, really. There were a couple of points where I was at my absolute lowest and I didn't see myself getting back up from them. I've suffered from depression since before I left Mum's. I've been in Banksia for a couple of nights for, getting really down and wanting to take my own life and things, but I'm definitely past that now.
Some people say to not look down when you're behind, but I always take note of the scenery inside. Some people say to close your eyes in the dark, but how can you see when you have come across the sun? To run away or play hide and seek to say you're not ready to take this path, we'll just leave you in the dark. No reason to run away or play hide and seek to say you're not ready to take this path, we'll just leave you in the dark. We'll just leave you in the dark.
At the moment, I'm in transitional housing, which is temporary housing. It's sort of like where you go in between being at home and moving out of home, even though I'm doing it 2 years after moving out of home. And they sort of help you, they teach you how to cook and clean. You have a worker that has to link up with you and things like that. My plans for the future are to complete my Cert 3 and 4 in community services. And then hopefully I'll go on to do a diploma or something like that. And then I'll become a social worker, more specifically a youth worker, I suppose. And I just plan to help other people and give back to the community.
No reason to run away or play hide and seek to say you're not ready to take this path, we'll just